Hi, and welcome to another episode of Silicon Minds Human Hearts. We are here at the reactor in Redmond, and I'm here with Monalisa Whalin. Welcome, Mona.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Awesome. And could you, for the people who don't know you, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a principal PM manager with Microsoft Azure OpenAI, and I've been also leading our work with agent service. And the charter of my group is to bring the latest large language models in the form of APIs to accelerate developer productivity.
Yeah, so you're actually now handing the developers all these amazing technologies to use. But you managed to work on so many good teams because before you were working on what then was Azure AI Studio, which is now Foundry. And now agents, you're working on all the coolest stuff here. How did you manage that?
Yeah, I think that given my background working in AI, which a lot of which predates my time at Microsoft, been here for 3 years, sort of like started with an idea of what can AI do that it is not able to do with the current technology that we have. And that's been something that's been of a lot of interest to me, which is why even now, as large language models are getting better and better every single month, I am most interested in the application layer. And that is what brought me to Azure OpenAI. And then later took me from shipping APIs, which are built on top of large language models such as GPT-4 or DALL-E or Whisper, to thinking about how can we move beyond the model layer and actually help people build things of value, a lot of which comes from applications.
Yeah, because the agents are now bringing skills and the external world almost to large language models. So they have a lot of decisions to take. How do we still manage the autonomous agents making decisions and the human oversight?
I think the interesting part is we have finally reached a point in the evolution of applications that's driven by generative AI and LLMs to really thinking about how far can making this system fully or semi-autonomous, right? And sort of like trusting the AI with the powers that we give it. And I think the biggest challenge there now has been this mismatch of how fast large language models are moving to how confident am I as a developer to prototype with it and quickly put it into production, right? So a lot of that then comes down to the problem of evaluating an agent or evaluating the system that I'm trusting that will probably reach out to millions of my users. And I think that as we sort of like move forward with thinking about agent-first applications, an agent that can not only be grounded on your data, but can take actions for you. They can be long-running. So think about a system that remembers your previous actions, run for not just like minutes, but days and hours and weeks. We will quickly start seeing scenarios where there'll be entirely net new applications that were not possible last year, but they are today, and a lot of which I think will be in the realm of productivity.
Yes, so many good things are happening currently, but up till now, it has sometimes been quite hard to use the agents. What are you doing for the developers just to make it easier to use your services?
Sure. The biggest challenge with agents has been the two sides of it being the bane and the boon is that the inner loop that an agent takes when it makes the decision of whether it needs to call a model, whether it needs to iterate on what it just presented to the user, or it needs to call an external tool, it almost works like magic. But for a developer, if something fails within the inner loop, it has usually been quite obfuscated, and a lot of people call that as sort of like a black box scenario. A lot of my focus currently is on improving the observability of what agents do and providing not just, let's say, error logs, which is what we usually see what agents do when they are being run on specific scenarios, but being able to provide you insights of what went wrong and at what point. And there are basically like a few areas that are important to what we're seeing with developers, but we're seeing most people either build something custom based on their needs, and these are usually like large companies who are fairly mature in their AI journey, or there are some very innovative startups in the field who've been looking at very specific narrowed business workflows and scenarios and running, sort of trying to solve that black box problem. But I think that there's 3 areas you need to look at when you, as a developer, I'm thinking about whether my agent is working or not. Do I understand how it's working? The first one of that is the end result correct or not? If I asked my agent, what's the weather in Seattle? Is it giving me the weather in Seattle, or is it giving me the weather in, like Phoenix, right? Is the temperature right? Is the way that I expected the agent to respond, how would I compare that to if I asked that from a subject matter expert in the same category, right? The second area is the path that the agent took to arrive to that response. Was that the optimal path? So I could be calling 5 different APIs. My agent could be calling that and getting that result. But was that efficient? So I consider that to be the second layer of understanding my agent and how well it is doing. And then the third and the last one is having a combination of the final response and the trajectory and seeing how does it perform on statistical metrics, right? Which in the world of LLM, we call them metrics such as groundedness, fairness, fluency. But being able to do that at every step that an agent is taking as it reaches the final response gets fairly quickly complex and murky. So I think the way that anyone should be approaching this, and it's a problem that we are trying to support with developers, is how do we bring together these insights and being able to help you troubleshoot and understand what your agent is doing so you can move fast from prototype to production.
Yeah, that's very good. And because, of course, these models change all the time. It's going so fast now. So, and you touched upon the evaluations already. What frameworks would you recommend developers to use for those evaluations? Maybe comparing models and just seeing how your agent reacts?
There are a few parameters, and I think the most basic way to think about it is what are the levers your agent has that is able to change its response. So at the very basic level, you could be looking at or running simulations of what are the different types of models that an agent can use that changes its response. So let's say for your particular scenario, you could be using a GPT-4 versus, let's say, a Llama 3. And that, for your scenario, would it produce similar responses or different? And how closely does it match with your golden data set, so to say? The other aspect is being able to, of course, iterate on the prompts and having some sort of, I wouldn't necessarily call it a prompt library, but more like a set of experiments that you run separately with the prompt or combined with the model and the prompt and the other tools that you give it and seeing what does that result in. And then, of course, as you keep building the tools, because an agent is only as good at the tools that you provide it, you could be looking at what is the accuracy of whether when it calls a particular tool or not, at what points is it catching an exception or is having to fall back on other tools to be able to get those results. So I think that the shortest way is to look at simulations and to be able to iterate based on models and potentially a combination of even seeing can you go from using a single agent to a mixture of experts to be able to achieve the same outcome.
Yeah. Yes, so many good things are happening there. It's going so fast, so it's very hard to keep track of everything. And if we then look at sustainability, because that is one of the drawbacks of using these large language models, these very big models, they cost a lot of compute, they cost a lot of power. What are you doing to help developers leverage the correct model for the correct use case?
I think it's sort of the other side of the coin of investing in tools that help developers see what is going on within the agent better and to be able to optimize that. So I think that there is a certain level of aspect of sustainability that we're introducing in the whole process. If you are giving developers a tool to say, if you were to use a cheaper model that runs faster, has lower token count, and being able to reduce their total cost of ownership, and as a result, use a less expensive model, which can lead to better sustainability outcomes over a period of time. I think the phase in which I'm seeing our developer customers being where they're at, transparently, I'm not seeing a lot of conversation about sustainability yet. As a customer, I can tell you that when I see people fire off queries to ChatGPT asking, what is 1700 divided by 60? And question comes to mind is, why are you not using a calculator for that, right? But we have to understand that much like how we think about developers, they're not necessarily looking to switch surface when they're trying to get answers. They're in their workflow. So how do we meet a customer in their workflow? I think that's where we are at, and that's a problem that we are not looking at solving. I do think that over time, as we reduce costs of compute, that is inherently going to start improving the overall sustainability question. And as a result, as there's more mass adoption of these models and a higher number of applications that use this, it's a problem that we really have to think about. And one, given that the scarcity of GPUs and what models can do with it is still a big question and an area to look into.
And for the past couple of months, what was your biggest AI surprise? Because I get surprised by AI, by these models all the time. What was your happy surprise in the past few months?
I think that I wouldn't say DeepSeek was the primary one, because as a group, as a team, as an individual, I never really thought that model or a cheaper model would be a moat for any business to play in, which is why we also don't tell our developers who ask that, how do I keep abreast with the latest in technology and build on a tech stack which is constantly evolving and faster than ever? I think for me, the biggest surprise has been the amount of innovation and the application layer that uses LLM and agents, as well as the integration with the rest of the ecosystem that is not really linked to innovations on the model itself, right? Whether it's making the model cheaper or making it faster, or, let's say with O1's reasoning capability, I thought that was by far the most interesting and the most surprising one, especially coming to think about what it can mean for agents in the future, which inherently has an expectation that it should be able to do things on your behalf, and breakdown of tasks and maybe being able to plan inherently in the model is really great. So I think that the two that I'd call out is the O1 reasoning models, especially now that they've been enabled with tool calling, combined with just the number of application layer products that are coming up, especially from the startups that are making use of these models and agents.
Just the other day, the O1 model, well, it actually made me trust it more, because it was leading up to a certain conclusion, and then it surprised itself, and again it reasoned over it, and I thought it was so good. I love the O1 model. And the last question, the thing we usually want to end with: what is your favorite AI service or AI tool that you use in your personal life? So not in your work life, but in your personal life. What has changed the most?
I think that it is so interesting. If you asked the Mona from 2022 what AI tools did she use, and she would probably say something like Alexa, although nobody really thinks of Alexa as AI yet, but we have to remember that there was a life before Gen AI. But when I think about what's the tool now, most of my use cases in personal life are around quickly retrieving information and getting to the most relevant, useful information that I can just take action on immediately, right? I would say it's a blend of ChatGPT, or internally it's Copilot, combined with Perplexity. I think that with Perplexity's sort of innovation in how it exposes search and is able to sort of have that explainability component inherently built, right, with the citations, it has just transformed how I look at search. And I would say that maybe there will be competitors out there who go beyond what Perplexity is doing when it comes to how users are consuming search. But I can say that, I have moved almost 70% of my search queries to Perplexity over the last few months combined, if you compare that to my Google usage.
Yeah, it's all going so fast. It's amazing. Yeah. Well, Mona, thank you so much for being with us, for sharing your knowledge, your insights. I'm really looking forward to see more of you in the future. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's great meeting you.